this is officially that era that we enjoyed the most of Texas Rangers baseball. And I know we enjoy being kids and watching Rangers baseball, but we went to the World Series twice, right? Like, I know we didn't get it. I understand that. Wash helped me cleanse that. All those guys are gone.
Yeah.
Like that whole team is now gone, and we hung on to that, I think, as long as we could. And I think I always felt this way, Mike. I don't know if you did too, but not winning one for Dirk for the longest time made me want Dirk to win one so much more. Not winning one with Romo for the longest time made me want Romo to win one so much more. And so here I am now with Elvis, and I feel like that was that when Jerry Jones says the thing I regret the most is not winning one. I mean, he was right there. That's the thing. That team was right there and that close. But now that era, Kevin, that group is officially done. And so this is like, that's what it kind of hurts, because when I think of Elvis, I've always said this, I love the passion that dude played with. I love, he was the first one over the rail if you hit a home run chasing you down. He was the first one. If you hit a walk-off double to win the game, he was the first one chasing you down. And that dude's smile lit up baseball. But I understand where we were with him. So I get that. But I hope a lot of fans can look back at him and the time that he played and say, man, I loved watching that dude play, because he was a blast.
From the 817, I get they needed to separate and we need to move on and get prospects. But if we're going to suck anyway, I like to see the guys that I'm familiar with and have loyalty to. The only thing I would say to that is, what if that is not exactly what the player wants?
Especially if that particular player, if having that familiar face hampers development, right? Because that was the tough thing, is that you want to get another shortstop into place. You've got to create room for Josh Young when he comes up, right? Like, you're starting to limit the places where you could play Elvis Andrus, and at that point, that would absolutely upset Elvis Andrus, right?
Yes, no, and I think, like, just looking at for Elvis, if you're sad for Elvis, you should not be. Like, you just heard Bassick say, it looks like look, let's be honest. Oakland's going to be way better than Texas this year. And it looks like that Elvis will have a more prominent role on a better team than he would have here. So if you're sad for Elvis, I don't think you should be.
This is like trading Steve Buechele to the Pirates so that he gets a chance at a run, right?
Well, and here's
yeah.
And I don't know, I think Steve Buechele they weren't worried about him possibly being an issue. But yeah, for Dean Palmer to be the third baseman, they needed to move Steve Buechele. But in this situation, from what I understand, guys, there's a little bit of a concern of, when we bring Elvis to spring training, is he going to even want to be here? And with this young group that we have, think about this. Leody Taveras, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Trevino have been on the Rangers, but they're still young guys. And then Nick Solak is going to be your most likely starting second baseman. Yeah. And Sam Huff is going to be most likely at some point early on your starting first baseman. And you're going to have Josh Young at some point in the major leagues. And, do you want to have your most veteran guy in the clubhouse unhappy and not really filling that role of veteran, off the bench, leader, positive attitude, when we think of maybe Hunter Pence a few years ago with the Texas Rangers? And I know he ended up being an all-star as a designated hitter outfielder, but you kind of, when you're running an organization, you look at it and go, is this veteran guy in a situation where we're not going to win, we're going to rebuild, is he going to be a positive influence on our younger guys? And I think the Rangers were a little bit concerned of, what will Elvis's attitude be being demoted from shortstop to utility player?
Kevin, I have a question about, because I remember sitting in class at Hank Dickinson's class out at North Texas, and Bill Mercer came out to speak. I went to UNT to study under Bill Mercer.
Great Bill Mercer.
He retired the year that I got there. But I got Hank, and Hank is fantastic. That being said, Bill Mercer came to speak to the class, and he was like, man, he was doing the Rough Riders play-by-play. And he's like, I'm watching this kid, and he makes this move all the way to the left side, turns, spins, and fires it across the field, and you're just like, wow, that is a flash of greatness right there. And then he gets an easy routine ball and sends it off into the stands. And you're like, okay, he's still a young player. I wonder, because we have seen the hype machine of the Rangers farm system for years kind of fall flat. Did we ever get what we thought we were going to get out of Elvis Andrus?
I think
Did we get the best version of Elvis Andrus that he was going to be?
I don't think so, because I think the best version is you look at this circa like 11 through 13, and after he got the contract extension, and you thought like that's what it was always going to be. But I will say this, the thing that I thought Elvis served really well at, and I think you saw that kind of like boost back up when Bannister got here, is I always thought Elvis was emblematic of what this franchise was. Is
a really good farm system?
No. I mean, at times, yes.
Okay.
But I thought it was really emblematic of what the Rangers were last decade. Not the biggest named players, not always the best players, but players that were having fun and somehow, some way bonded together to make a really good team. Like if you look back at Hamilton, like I get Josh Hamilton is kind of the outlier because you could look at him and go, well, he's the best damn player in the world. But for the most part, I feel like usually the Rangers were comprised of a lot of good players that weren't nationally known, and Elvis was one of them. You ask a casual baseball fan, oh, what do you think about Elvis Andrus? They'd be like, who? But like Elvis Andrus is very well known here and beloved here, and I thought he was very representative of who the Rangers were.